Welcome back to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but first let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank our good friends at Hometown Ticketing for their support of Wednesday Wisdom. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can learn more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to thank Huddle for their support. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to help the performance of their athletes using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's built for every level of play, from club and youth programs all the way through high school and college teams, and even the pros are using Huddle to help their teams play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the college and university teams that you're trying to get to recruit your kids. You want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of the Educational AD Podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Violet Defense for their support of the podcast. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement some of their existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com for more information about their great products. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, visit vitalsignswalloffame.com or learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. And we want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com for more information. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. Indoor scoring tables and video boards. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is a good friend, Dr. Raube Keller. She was a guest on the podcast back in October, but she's back as part of our regular Wednesday Wisdom rotation. Dr. Raube Keller is the Sport Administration Graduate Program Director at Boston College. And, she is involved on the front lines of training, the next generation of coaches, athletic directors, and leaders. And we're very fortunate to have her with us again today. Dr. Raube Keller, what do you have for us today on Wednesday Wisdom?
Hi, Jake. Thanks for having me on. And today I wanted to talk about mentoring. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, and I do a lot of it with our students. But as a former athletic administrator for a very long time, and I worked in college athletics as well, mentoring is very important to help our young people out there learn and grow. And as coming from a woman, most of my mentors have been men. And it was really important as a young woman, especially 20 years ago when I started out, that these guys took me under their wing and helped me learn, to advocate for me, to kind of almost tell me sometimes listen and learn, those kind of things. And then to be there to get me resources, to send me to conferences and things like that. And that's something that's really important along my way. And that's something I really try to do now with our students, and mentoring them through their courses that they're taking and through our program. I do all our career advising with the students, because our program at Boston College isn't a package. You get to select and choose the courses you want to take. So I do a lot of mentoring in the advisement I'm doing. And I'm also, when I'm placing students with people to earn their hours for internships or practicums, we're trying to find people that are good mentors as well to our students, that they're just not sitting there filing, that they're learning as, it's okay to file, but have a conversation with them when they're filing, things like that. And that you're gaining some insight and perspective from people who are maybe not necessarily older than you, but maybe a little more experienced. Right. So that there's a give and take too in that relationship. That's really important. I learn so much from my students every day. So they're telling me what's going on with technology that I don't know or understand. They share that with me. So that's really important as I grow as a professional, as I'm learning what's going on, like TikTok, right? I'm doing all this stuff on name, image, and likeness, and I don't even know what TikTok was. So I asked my students, I'm like, you guys show me what TikTok is. And they did. They showed it and sat down, and it really helped me understand through the name, image, and likeness space how students can market themselves through TikTok, through Instagram, through because they're not on Facebook, even though maybe some of them should be, because that's where the old people like me are looking. And if they're marketing execs old like me, that's where they might catch my attention instead. But, those kind of pieces are really important, that it's a give and take relationship. And it doesn't have to be a formal where you sit down and go to lunch and, do presentations. It can be super informal where you're in a car one day going from home base to game, and you're just talking, and you're sharing information. And it's just someone there that supports, and that you have as someone in your corner sometimes. And that's the one thing I've had to learn, that I'm not their boss many times in that mentoring role. I'm really just there to advise and support them. So, Jake, have you ever mentored anyone in your career?
Well, yeah, yes, both formal and informal. You mentioned, your students that you deal with, as an athletic director, the coaches that you're responsible for. I think it's your responsibility to help them along their way. And that would come under that umbrella of mentoring. It might be a monthly coaches meeting where they're all together, or it just might be that moment where you walk through practice or after practice, hey, coach, how's it going? I noticed you were doing this. And just create that environment where they can feel like they can come to you if there's an issue, or that they can just come in and shoot the breeze and have those moments, those informal moments where sometimes the greatest learning of all takes place.
Yes.
The people that are listening to the interviews are probably mostly on that AD path or coach path, but that doesn't preclude them from needing or benefiting from the mentoring experience. What would be some tips that you would have for someone who's listening that, you know, they want to seek out and find a mentor, but they just don't know how to go about that? Any advice for those listeners?
Sure. My time in athletics, I wasn't the AD. I was the senior women's administrator, the assistant AD. I mentored a lot of coaches and young staff, and it's because they saw that I was maybe had more time to give them than the AD or things like that. So where they sought me out, they were like, then sometimes it was just like, I have a problem. Can you maybe like just listen to me and give me your insight on it? Like, what have you seen this before working in athletics? And that can open a door to a lot of things. And as an administrator, I always told the coaches and our young staff and stuff, just because I'm not the athletic director doesn't mean I'm just sitting here with no advice to give or no help. I've been here a long time and I can help you. So you don't need a title to be a leader, and you don't need a title to be a mentor. Sometimes it's just having someone there to give you a different perspective on what you're doing and how you see it, and to look through a different lens and just to help guide you along the way. I mean, I had a football coach that would come in on Monday mornings, and my boss was the football coach. And he was just like, I'd rather talk to you sometimes because you're seeing it through a different lens. You weren't a football coach. And sometimes that view is it's very good. And it's good to have diversity in points of view. So don't be afraid to find leaders who are different from you as well. I think a lot of times people will really go towards people who are just like them. Look for people who are different too, different from you, because you want that different perspective, because a lot of your kids are coming from all different places. And if you can find someone who's different from you, it can really help you with your student athletes that are probably different than you too.
Oh, absolutely. Great point. For our listeners, we're visiting with Dr. Patty Raube Keller, and she's the director of the Sport Administration Graduate Program at Boston College. We're going to do this at the end of the interview, but Dr. Raube Keller, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, or even find out more about the Boston College program, how can they best get a hold of you?
Sure. I'm available on LinkedIn anytime. It's just Patty Raube Keller on LinkedIn. And then they can always email me at BC. It's RAUBEKEL at bc.edu.
Okay. We're going to be back with some more Wednesday Wisdom with Dr. Patty Raube Keller, but let's take a quick break and hear from a couple of our podcast sponsors. This is Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Huddle for their support of Wednesday Wisdom and the podcast. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to elevate the performance of their athletes and their teams using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, from club and youth programs all the way through high school and college teams, and even the pros are using Huddle to help their athletes play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. You want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your athletic department, or how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com for more information. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com, and find out exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. Welcome back, everyone, to Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we're visiting with Dr. Patty Raube Keller from the Boston College Sport Administration Graduate Program. We're talking about mentoring. Dr. Raube Keller, what are some aspects of that mentoring process that you guys do at Boston College or that you've seen in your career?
Sure, there's, along the way, there's formal mentoring programs that are really great. And sometimes it's hard to get involved with them. You have to apply and be accepted and things like that. So that's something I've worked with. And I even did this with my dissertation work was I created mentoring programs on campus for our students if they wanted to work in sport, just if they wanted to go into a different field. I reached out to other faculty members and things like that. And any of the students could sign up and they could, sign up times with people. And, it was a great introduction to people across campus for them. And for really, my dissertation work was the marginalization of women working in college athletics. It really opened doors for the girls that I was working with, the young ladies at the time. Like many times all they see is what they see in front of them. So they see the athletic director and they see the coach, but they don't see all the other jobs in sports. So part of it was like educating them on all the different jobs in sports, whether you're working for some of your sponsors, sideline, huddle, all those things, they're still working in sport and their jobs out there. And or you can coach, or you can work in student athlete services, or you can be an athletic trainer, you can be the athletic director, you can be marketing, you can do revenue generation. There's all these different pathways to working in sport, but many student athletes don't see that because that's all they see is their coach and the athletic director. So sometimes formal mentoring processes are really good to just work with your student athletes, and then even working with your young coaches. If you assign maybe a more experienced coach with a young coach and just say, you just set up a formal thing and say, look, I want you guys to meet once a month. And this gives that opportunity for that young coach to have someone in the athletics department besides an administrator, be like, look, how do I do this? How do you go about doing these things? Have you ever had this happen to you? All those kinds of things. And then instead of the the younger coach and having to seek someone out, they are assigned someone so they know like this person's okay for me to talk to. And I think that's a big thing too, is for the mentor to know that there's some good personal rewards for mentoring or having a protege. It's you get this increased sense of purpose in your job. I think sometimes as we get older, we start like, oh, same thing every day, stuff like that. And it gives you some value to your job. And you're also gaining their network, that young coach's network. Like I said, we talked about the technology. You're learning how to be a leader. You're gaining communication skills. There's all these good things about being a mentor that sometimes I think we forget that, sometimes we're like, oh, I got to go meet with this person or someone's calling me again or things like that. But, being there for that person can really open some doors for you as well. And, and leading on the, other things. And I think it's really important too, that we take time to mentor people that are different than us. Like, find that person of color in the office. Sometimes they're the only person of color in the office and they need that friendly face around so they know that they have someone there that brings them support. And I know as a woman working in athletics departments, many times I was the only woman working in the athletics department. So when I had that male advocate for me and knew I had someone safe and trust that I could go to, that I had an established relationship with when I was having a hard time, that was really good to be able to have that and really help me grow and learn in my position. It was also good for that guy to say to me, no, this isn't a woman thing. Like, it's just, that's your perception today, but this is something you need to look at. And because I already had that established relationship with that person, I trusted them on that. So I always thought that was really important too. I think we lose focus when we stop mentoring people and we just think about ourselves. I think when we start looking at helping the department or the organization and not just growing our own program, but growing other programs, the whole organization will shine and get better. So I think that really goes along with that mentoring piece too.
You touched on so many great points there. And towards the end, from the mentor standpoint, that they're not just helping that individual, but they're learning about that person, and they're also helping their entire department. You also mentioned, creating an awareness through the mentoring process of all the different opportunities that are out there in the world of athletics. At the high school level, it's a little more limited as far as, teaching, head coach, assistant coach, or athletic director. But at the college level and the professional level, there's so many possibilities to be involved with sport, to be involved with athletics, whether it's, facilities or ticketing or fan support or player support. You do such a great job on LinkedIn, I notice, of recognizing and acknowledging and congratulating people, whether they're graduates of your program or not, when they post, hey, I just got a job with, the San Diego Chargers, or I just got a job with a university. And it's amazing to see all the different jobs and the diverse collection of individuals that are filling those jobs. Really, really great stuff. Okay?
I think too, Jake, at that high school level from my time there, some of those kids got nothing. And this is where I get emotional about it. I'm a foster parent. Like, that mentoring relationship with those students, you do not know that impact you're going to have on that kid because you took 5 minutes out of your day to talk to them like twice a week. That might be the only strong adult conversation that kids had at all that week, besides seeing their teachers or, their coach. Maybe as assistant AD, you just touch base with that kid every day and just making sure you saw them and said, hey, how you doing today? Or, good job in the game last night. For some of our student athletes, especially our high school kids in athletics, we're some of the most positive and sometimes the only positive people in their life. So that goes really a long way. Like, I've had kids said 20 years ago when I worked in high school athletics said, if you didn't believe in me, I wouldn't be where I am today.
No, I am right there with you. No, I'm right there with you. I appreciate you sharing, and both in a good and for me a not so good way. I told you earlier I posted a picture this weekend and had some comments on Facebook, and a couple of them were from former student athletes that I coach. Hey coach, good to see you, and it makes me happy that they still are reach out to me and say hi, but it also reminds me that as a coach, I really didn't do as good a job as I should have, could have, with all of my student athletes, all those kids on the teams. It just, I wasn't mature enough to do that as a young adult to understand that, hey, they have a life beyond football or track. And, I should have taken the time to get to know them better. So again, the point that you make is so very good that, as coaches, as leaders, as athletic directors, we have that responsibility to mentor in every sense of the word, the kids and the adults that we come in contact with. Great stuff from Dr. Patty Raube Keller. Doc, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, and I certainly encourage you listeners to do so, or find out more about the Boston College program, how can they reach out and get a hold of you?
Sure. Anytime on LinkedIn, Patty Raube Keller, or through BC email, RAUBEKEL@bc.edu. You can
Always
just Google
great.
me and it comes up.
No, and again, I did the same thing, but always great to talk with you. And thanks again for joining us on our rotation of experts on Wednesday Wisdom.
Thanks, Jake.
For listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews are uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you tuning in today. Come back again next week for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom, and just about every day for the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs for their support. They are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. Vital Signs provides a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, visit vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of our interviews. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the players and the parents who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. And we want to thank our good friends at Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can learn more about how Hometown Ticketing can help you and your department by going to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Once again, we want to thank Dr. Patty Raube Keller for being part of our regular rotation on Wednesday Wisdom. Come back again next Wednesday for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast.